We are delighted that this live event today is joined by 3 very special guests.
Hello everyone, my name is Rosie. I'm a lecturer in accounting and finance at Bath University Management School, and my interest of research is in accounting and finance, specifically in corporate governance, behavioral finance, and economy.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Dr. Tabish, and I'm here a lecturer in strategy and innovation here at Hull University Business School. And my main research area is looking at innovation adoption within complex organization. And I work with multiple teams trying to understand their dynamics and
I'm Yueming He, and I am a finishing PhD student at Newcastle University Music Department, and my research focuses on music history in early modern era, music and gender, music and print culture, and song and performativity. Thank you.
Could you please tell me the difference between PhD admission procedures and other undergraduate and postgraduate programs?
Okay. I think that's a question which needs to be looked at from different perspectives. So if you are a student and trying to get into PhD, the landscape of PhD admission over a few years, and in fact, I would say last 5 to 10 years has changed quite a lot. It has become a lot more competitive. And given the nature of PhD and the competition here in the UK, it's very important to understand that you need to put in a lot more effort when it comes to preparing your application, and those applications, and in my experience, those are reviewed by academics and scholars who are right at the top of their game. So which means a lot more attention needs to be given, and what you're being judged at when it comes to PhD application is your ability to carry that project on your own. So all of that has to be reflected really well when you're doing your PhD application. And now you compare that with a master's application. That is not as intense, that is not as detailed, and that doesn't take into account a lot of the life skills which you would need when you're doing your PhD or when you're completing your PhD applications. So one of the first thing which comes out is your research proposal. Over the time I've seen, the importance of your research proposal. It has to be very, very strong. And some of the applications I review now when it comes to PhDs, I see students tend to, give less and less importance to that. But in my opinion, that is one of the central aspect of your PhD admission, and that will what determine you get into a good top Russell University.
PhD application is much more complicated and required much more focus on that, especially for undergraduate and master alone. This program, normally all the application come to the admission office of the university to make decision. However, for PhD, yes, admission office does make decision based on the application. However, they mainly doing the screening stage, which means whether you meet the minimum requirement for academic background yet, or do you have language efficiency that meets the requirement. However, for you actually getting the PhD admission is whether any of the lecturers, senior lecturers, or professor in the university accept you. So if your proposal is circling around the department or the faculty and none of the staff there or faculty professor there actually accepted you, then your application will be automatically declined. So just to overall, you need acceptance from a supervisor first before you actually can get an admission. So the admission office cannot make decision on your application alone.
Previous two speakers talking about the importance of the research proposal in the PhD application and whether your potential supervisor would accept that or not. But I think prior to that, there is this stage where you have to sit down and think about which university and which department you would like to choose as sort of destination for your potential study. It is because during my own application 4 years ago, I found that it might be the same program. For example, it can be business study or media study, whatever. And you look around among a list of UK universities and they all offer this PhD program. However, if you go through all the application process, you will find out that what they are looking for is actually how the program is running, and what you will be doing during your PhD is somehow different. For example, when I was applying for Newcastle, what their music department requires is pure research. When I applied to York, their music department requires PhD students, music PhD students, doing research along with very extensive music performance. So you can see, just an example, you can see sometimes it can be a same program, while how they're actually running that is very different, and it suits to different abilities, student abilities and preferences, and how they want their PhD doing. So I think during this process of university and program selection, it can be good if you can actually go into an educational consultant to have this fresh and professional opinion just based on your previous academic experience and your level, to recommend you the relevant universities and program which can be suitable for you. So yeah, I think that can be a first challenge. I think the second challenge regarding applying for PhD is the afterwards of the university admission, which I mean visa. I think applying for a PhD visa is as complicated as the university admission itself, because given the length that your visa are going to be issued, and it is very complicated of what kind of material you can submit for the support. So yes, I think generally there's two challenges the student might face. Yes.
One of the biggest challenges I feel as a prospective PhD student is to make sure that your application or your information or your competency jumps out, because you're competing against hundreds of applicants, who have range of skills, who've got range of experience, and who have got, range of creative ideas with them. So your challenge is to make sure, like I said, in your research proposal, that is very well laid out, because that will what separate your application from the others. And secondly, make sure you align yourself with the interest of the supervisor whom you have selected for in that particular university. So I feel these are the two pillars as far as your PhD application process is concerned. The first is making sure your research proposal reflects the quality, and second, making sure it is aligned with the research supervisor you are in talks with, or you're likely to work with.
I would suggest that you apply as soon as you can. Just for myself, I started actually applying for my PhD at the end of my 3rd year of undergrad. So the whole year of master, I'm working on my proposal, because in the first 2 questions, we already go through what is the challenges of a student to get an admission for PhD, and establishing, we already say you need to show off your quality, your competency, and your independence in doing research. And trust me, even until the end of master, it will be hardly being reviewed to the extent that you can show off a lot of your understanding in research. It took me really long time to learn about it, to actually make my proposal in a good quality. So I think not just from the time you're actually thinking of PhD, you have to start prepare for it, working really hard to get the best proposal, and then you can use that application, you use that proposal and start approaching the supervisor. And seriously, you don't know when the supervisor, when one among many of them that you're contacting actually replied you. So the suggestion is still as soon as you can, and prepare your application way beforehand if you actually want to do it on your own.
One of the things you have to consider is that you're coming from a different education environment. You're coming into a very, very different, higher education environment. So you have to be prepared for that change. And when you look at the quality of students you have here within the UK, which is synonymous with the quality of education students get here at top universities. So you have to make sure that you are in line with what qualities or what competencies these students here have, in terms of the domestic. So when it comes to overseas students, you have to understand and be very sure which university you are applying to. You have to make sure you understand the sort of a ranking, the sort of programs they offer at, let's say, bachelor's or master's program. That will give you an idea of, what sort of applications you're going to compete with in those universities. So because local students here have a lot of advantages. They not only benefit from quality education, they also benefit from work experience as well. So if you look at their CV, if you look at their skills and the qualities, it's really at top level. They might have come off with some very good internship, very good research projects, that gives them an edge. And besides, they also have great communication skills, the way they draft their research proposal, the way they draft their emails and stuff like that. So you're having to compete with that, so you have to really work hard. And it just takes me back to the previous question where you say, when you're looking to apply for PhD, I would say don't jump into it straight away. You take your time, because, the good thing with PhD application is it is open all year round. So if a good quality research proposal comes to a professor, he would likely to be to read it. So you give yourself time. Give yourself time in preparing those research proposals. Give yourself time in preparing that communication with the research supervisor, and then you will be better off and you'll have more chances of being accepted.
The funding available for PhD is much more generous comparing to master and undergrad. If you notice that it's very hard to find like a full funding in master and undergrad in the UK. However, I think the very first source that you can find for scholarship for PhD is the university at the faculty level. Almost all faculty at all university will live at around 2 to 4 scholarship. I mean full funding, tuition fee and stipend for living for PhD students. However, again, it's extremely competitive, because it's not something that easy to get. That is the first source, the university faculty level. The second source is Research Council. So ESRC is one of the UK Council research funding. So you can look into that as well. And there's, for different countries, you may have different link with your government, and the government have link with the university in the UK. For example, Chevening, or we have another scholarship called Potter something, really. But at a country level, not about your government specifically, but some government can have connection with the university in the UK or with the governments in the UK and have a specific scholarship for the student from that country specifically. So there are quite a few sources that you can look into. But again, it's a very competitive process.
In terms of support of foreign students, and if it is language that you are worried about, which I think there's plenty of in-sessional helpful sessions that really help second language students to learn English, whether it's a specific sessions for academic writing, which I'm sure there are things like that. At least in Newcastle, I see things like that in place to help non-English native speaker students. And you can also use the services such as Writing Development Center at the university, which you can bring your writing pieces to the advisor, and they will read through your stuff and give you advice to shaping, to tell you what's your problem and what's your strengths, what should you improve in your English writing. So I think there's really a lot resources at university to help students with their if English is not their first language. And I think quintessentially, I think your English is actually developing along the way. When you're doing research day by day, when you read sources day by day, and when you're going out, participating in conferences, and when you practice more, and when you are thinking more in English about your research, actually, I think it is the really good way, best way to, you can see your improvement of English day by day. But if it is extra help that you're really looking for, I'm sure the university would have sessions and one-on-one tutorials that is available for international students. And based on my personal experience, because I've used quite a lot of a Writing Development Center, is that the advisor actually would tell you that you're worrying about doing PhD in English, which is not your native language, is actually something pretty common. Worry about academic writing even among the English native speaking students, because English academic writing, it's not only about English, it's a specific style of writing, and it requires a lot logical thinking and linking and structuring and paragraphing. So yes, I think it's not only a language issue, it's also a academic issue that I think it's really common to everyone, that no matter whether your first language is English or not. PhD study in the UK is, I think, is still standard student visa. So, however, if you want to get to this visa, the most important document is called a cast letter, which is a certificate of acceptance of study. So you actually you need to secure an offer to the university, to the program, and you can use that letter to apply for the long-term visa in the UK, and the Home Office will issue this according to the length. It will be on that cast letter. So they will issue your length of the visa based on that. So so basically, for this question, long-term visa, if it's for the UK PhD study, still the first very essential step is that you have to be accepted by a university. And prior to that, you have to be accepted, as other two speakers said, that you need a supervisor to accept you as the prospective student. And then they will get to you the offer, and then you will have the cast letter, and then you can use that to apply for a UK PhD alongside with all other documents. For example, maybe language certificate, maybe your previous master's or bachelor degree certificate, etc. So yes. Okay, next question, please. I think the best time would be whenever you really had a strong research proposal. For the UK, I think for the UK PhD start date, it can be flexible, and you can have September start, you can have a January start, or other. Yes, this is the 2 times of the year which is common for PhD student to start. But I think for the admission, you really need to work on the research proposal, and because that is that is the document would guarantee you or offer or secure a potential offer. So I think whenever you have an idea, sit down, think about it, do research about it, and develop it. And just if you that's the goal. Doing PhD is your goal. I think you should prepare as soon as possible, as earlier as possible. And yes, I think if any supervisor is potentially that interested in your research, I think all other admission, it would be naturally coming as a result that this supervisor would very interested in your research, and all other admission would be naturally happen. So I think best time to start PhD admission is whenever your research proposal is ready. So yes, that's my answer. Thank you.
When we look at the prospective PhD students, what we look at is, or what we are looking to identify is how you will be able to carry an independent project on your own. Okay, so obviously when you're submitting all your certificates, we'll have, like, let's say 5 or 6 students. We look at their certificates, their education qualification and everything, and we will see them nearly at the same level. But what again distinguishes you from others would be your research proposal, your understanding of the topic which you have selected, and does it align with my research interest or not. So first, I want to see quality in your research proposal. So if you are talking about a particular research topic, does it make sense? And is it credible enough? Okay, yes, if it's credible enough, then the next step would be, does it align with my interest or not? So you are having to tread 2 lines here, and you have to be really, really careful in terms of who you contact and why you're contacting them. So have a very good idea, develop a very solid foundation of your research idea, and then get in touch with with the prospective research supervisor. See what sort of work they have done, what sort of work they have published, and what is their interest. So building on that, you can then go and develop your research proposal, and then try to contact your prospective supervisor, because this is really, really important. So we look at your academic skills in terms of your research skills, how far you'll be able to go with that project, and that will be reflected in your CV. So what sort of work you've done in the past, and how successful you have been. And then trying to see quality in how you have put together your ideas in the research proposal. Because one PhD alone is a very, very difficult process, and without scaring you guys, it is hard work, and it really requires a lot of planning. By the end of 4.5 years, you will be exhausted. So I don't know how feasible that is in the long run, but you've got to be realistic and practical in terms of that.
For master and undergrad, all you need is a personal statement and a good academic background. So when you submit your application, if you cannot go to a good, very high ranking uni, just go down the ranking table, and eventually I think you get one. Doesn't matter what. Very hard. I think it's very easy to guarantee an offer for master and undergrad, but for PhD, again, the main point is you've got to persuade a potential supervisor to take you on. And imagine, for each supervisor, they're not going to take on 10 or 20 students. They're going to limit themselves to probably 3 to 5. I think 5 is actually a lot already. So 3 to 5 students all the way. So when they receive your application, most of the time, trust me, they may just ignore it. If you don't have a good email that actually appealing to them, no way they're even touching your CV or your research proposal. So most of the time, they just ignore it, unless they see a very special title or really potential just through your email or the title of your research proposal. And then when you read onto that, have they actually reaching the full capacity for their student? And then it's coming to whether you actually suiting their expertise and whether they want to take you on or not. So 100% guarantee for PhD offer, hard to say. I would answer this way. But if you have a very potential research proposal, you have a much higher chance to get in. And if you can do every single step during your admission, from the day you're actually sending your very first email to the day you do interview, the first interview with your supervisor, and then the second interview with the supervisor, and maybe the second supervisor that I invited into the team, and then come to the portal admission. So all the steps are very important, and you can fail at any of these stages. So if you're doing it right and your research proposal is perfectly made and developed, I can say the higher the chance, but I cannot guarantee 100% for this.
Okay, very interesting. If I can just get you to answer the next bit of the same, I think it's the same question as well. Why do university not take students the same way they do with bachelor and masters? And these are funding for school too?
Yes, so again, I will add a bit in this just with my previous answer, just to think about this. Yes, when you come into the university, you bring in funding to the university, just like bachelor and master. The question is, why don't they just taking all of you in? Who's going to supervise you if the supervisor has already overloaded? So they have to leave that answer up, whether to take you or not, on the supervisor side. So if someone take you on, then they can bring you in. Second of all, supervisor mainly looking for publication. That's why they need really qualified students, because it took a lot of time for training you to get a credible publication in the future. They do, except from that is their main payoff. So all they're looking for is quality student. So the university cannot take on any student in just for the funding matter, and no one actually in the faculty would like to supervise that student. I think Tavish may have something to add there.
You can see you're studying over a longer period of time. The university is responsible for you over a longer period of time. And more importantly, you are responsible as a PhD student to produce in terms of the outcome. So the quality of a work really matters, because you have been aligned with a very reputed person like the professor or the assistant professor or the associate professor you'll be working with, and he or she is given their valuable time to you so that you can develop as a researcher. And once you finish your PhD, you can then contribute directly either through funding or through publication or whatever it can be. So that's why universities don't take in so many PhD students. They are very, very selective in who they take on, and they want to see a good track record of the students who they want to take on the research projects. So it is associated with the reputation and the prestige of the university. I mean, the answer to this question lies in what you end up doing with your PhD. Okay, no matter how or where you're doing your PhD, if you're not able to produce some sort of outcome within your allocated time, you will struggle to get future job opportunities. So the thing what you can do is obviously make sure you complete your PhD on time, get a few publications when you're doing your PhD, and that will set you up nicely to get a job within the academia, which is considered a very safe environment as far as the job is concerned. So yes, there is a very good chance that you will be absorbed by one of the universities here in the UK, if you do well and if you have publication. But if you don't intend to work within the academia, there are opportunities outside as well, and which totally depends on the market condition as of now. But I would say majority of us who finish their PhD, they end up continuing their career within the universities or in an academia environment.
It depends on which subject, and certain subject I think can be like easier than the other. But I would generally, I would say just work hard and get hands-on while doing PhD. Get hands-on everything that you can, whether it's industrial placement or it's publication or attend conference events. Just doing all that and build your portfolio, and to make your CV eventually stand out. And if it is academia you want to stay, so work on it, work on publication, work on networking, work on all the events that can raise your profile as a researcher. And if you are not sure, and I would say there's potentials for PhD holders to get jobs, I think, even in the private sector. Be open-minded and just try to build the best CV. And yeah, that's my answer.
I do always believe that as all PhD has already gone through a very tough time, 4 to 5 years to doing PhD, we should stand out of the crowd in terms of our CV. Doesn't matter it's in academic or in the industrial, we always have better chance to get in and landing a job in the UK. Well, that is my personal belief anyway. And again, just like any other guest just say, just trying to get hold of everything you can do, especially teaching opportunities is there when you're doing you do your PhD. Fight for it, getting as much as teaching as you can, because that will build up a lot in your CV. And academic or industrial will be there for you as soon as you finish.
I would say to anyone thinking about doing a PhD, think of it as a long-term battle where you have to really think of yourself and plan it really well. So be prepared to fight, be prepared to struggle, be prepared to be flexible. So right from the application stage, you send it out to as many universities, try to get in touch with as many, professors or lecturers as possible, and make sure, put some work on it without just generalizing it. So be ready to do that and be ready to grind, and I'm sure you'll be successful.
I think it's this sort of once in a lifetime opportunity if you have that PhD experience. And I agree with Tavish, there's a lot challenged along the way, and you will have headaches, sleepless nights, and maybe heartache after supervisors' critiques. But I think the road is really long, but when you look back after you finish it, you will see how time really flies. So my takeaway would be just go for it if you can, really go for it, and enjoy everything along the way, and just see yourself being developed through the years, and absolutely enjoy the life. Yes.
Yes, so just to wrap up the talk, I just want to say that work hard, be patient. The PhD journey is tough, but eventually we'll have to end and complete it. All hard work will be paid off. And if you have any big thoughts of doing PhD, start from today.
All right, thank you. So I would like to just end the live webinar today here. And once again, thank you for watching and taking part in the webinar today. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to drop us a message in any of the Facebook pages that we are going live from. So I'll see you in the next live webinar, and I hope you have a great day. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.